Hello friends, it's Amy from Buttercake, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I built and decorated this lovely little 6-inch heart cake. It's monochromatic, all done in this beautiful light shade of purple that unfortunately looks gray on screen. But let's get into it. Here I have a 10-inch cake drum. And I just did one tall vanilla cake in my 6-inch heart pan and cut it into 3 layers. I'm then piping dams around the edge with my Swiss meringue buttercream recipe, which is my go-to. I'll link that down in the description if you would like to see how I make that in a separate video. Then filling the layers with a chocolate hazelnut spread. No, it's not Nutella. I'm too cheap to buy the Nutella, so I buy the store brand. But I think it's just as delicious, so no worries there. Getting the second layer of filling done here. I was very generous with that chocolate hazelnut filling. Of course, makes all the difference. It was really delicious when we cut into this cake. Doing a crumb coat here, just in a plain white buttercream, vanilla flavored with a little bit of vanilla extract. Nothing too fancy. Just putting a fairly generous amount onto the sides, but most of it will get scraped off as this is just going to secure the crumbs and get placed into the refrigerator until I'm ready to add the second coat and decorate. Just want to take off that top edge to get it nice and smooth, and this will be the foundation so that we can have a very nice level cake in the end. Clean up that board, and into the fridge it went. I feel like it looks purple there, right? Pastel purple. It's very pretty. Very generous amount here going on. The top, I always do my top first. It's just how I've always done it. I know there's some people who do their sides first, but for me, this is just years of repetitiveness, so this is what I'm comfortable with, and this is usually what I teach. Doing large amounts on the sides so that we have enough on here. When you're using different shaped cake pans that aren't round, it's actually easier if you add more buttercream in the beginning to take off. It will help you shape the cake better. So I'm going very, very slow here. Again, this is a heart shape, so I'm trying to get really kind of that crisp dip there so that it's defined. If you're looking down on the cake, you want it to definitely look like a heart. You don't want to lose that definition at the top. And then also trying to get the point of the heart as straight up and down as possible. So if you're looking directly at the point of that heart, it doesn't look crooked at all. So I did take my time trying to get the sides really nice here, especially if you're doing it for a cake order, or say you're doing a stacked cake like a wedding cake. You especially want to take time on the hearts to make sure those points look on point. That was a lot of points. Sorry. I'm sorry for that. Cleaning up that top there. As always, I say that I do so many passes over the tops of my cakes, but as always, I enjoy it, so it doesn't seem tedious to me. Of course, that's kind of one of those things that it used to be tedious years ago when I first started, but now it's quite enjoyable. I'm just generally marking on the top here about 3/4 of an inch in with a little scribe tool. And this is helping me mark where I'm going to be piping my lattice on the top. There will be a double border later on, so I didn't want to pipe the lattice all the way to the edge. It's adding extra buttercream that we don't need, and then it would also make it difficult for the borders to be nice and even and flat. Just using a little basket weave tip here. And taking my time, starting from one side, and I am pulling it straight towards me. This is going to help you get much straighter lines than if you were to go from side to side. Side to side tends to skew your view a little bit, and it makes it harder to judge your spacing. So I find starting farthest away from me and working towards myself and just generally keeping an eye on the line prior to it helps better to get really straight lines. If you're just eyeballing it like this, you can always mark it with a ruler if you feel more comfortable with that. Just filling in the entire heart there. And that looks pretty good. Moving on to the sides. I just generally marked. I tried to space as evenly as possible just by eyeballing it. I started there in that dip and worked my way around the sides of the cake until I got to the point of the heart and felt like I had good spacing and had those dots at generally the same height. There's a lot of swags on the side of this cake, so I wanted to line them up. Taking that same basket weave tip to create the first swag here. You can see this is real time, going very slowly. To create those, because it's a wider tip and it has detail in it, it's a lot easier to notice if these are not symmetrical, same height, or if they kind of dip at different spots. Pipe those the whole way around, and then I just generally tried to space evenly above it these drop borders. That is a number 4 round Wilton tip. And I did this the whole way around. This was actually probably the easiest one to do, surprisingly. But I also do a lot of string work, so that was enjoyable. Satisfying having a larger round, actually. I quite like that. Usually I work with a 1, 2, or 3, but the number 4 is pretty nice. Using the same number 4, just creating a bead border then underneath those first swags. Just taking my time to line it up as best I can. I am sitting in a chair when I pipe on the sides of my cakes. Just, you want to be eye level if you're planning on doing work like this so that you can line it up. This is a number 16 star tip, and I'm just doing a rope. So it's kind of a swirling sort of motion with the end of your tip at a 45-degree angle. Doing that the whole way around. And then I'm taking a leaf tip, and I'm actually just applying a decent amount of pressure here to get that ruffled effect. I'm not moving the end of my tip. As you can see, I'm just squeezing and it comes out like that, which is so gorgeous. I really love the way this tip works. So you can get these nice ruffles, but you can also use it for leaves of flowers. Then I come back in with this larger star tip for a nice shell border. I love these big shell borders, sort of iconic vintage style. You see those a lot on all the vintage cakes nowadays. It's just nice to have different variations in size of your pipe decorations. It's not only does it create a lot of allure, but it also draws the eye away from any potential imperfections. So I did that the whole way along the bottom there. Now on the top here, I am moving my tip back and forth a little bit, just because if you don't have the tip perfectly planted on a surface, and I did not want to drag it through my buttercream, it won't do the ruffle. So to create that ruffle technique, I'm doing very small up and down motions. and then covering up that inner edge. And as you can see, where the lattice is, the marking was perfect to fit these two borders so that they lay nice and flat and even on the top edge of the cake. And they're not sort of cattywampus because of all the extra bulk of too much lattice work. So that turned out quite nice. I always like to start at that top point of a heart and work my way around and end there. Tends to look the best, in my opinion. And then I decided to fill that top small space with another rope, but using the number 4 tip again. I didn't go as deep with those. They're a little more straight across, but it filled in that space quite nicely. Thank you for watching and for hanging out for this long if you're still here. I do appreciate it. If you'd like to watch some other vintage cake decorating videos, you can find those on my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.